Hello Banana Heads, I'm King Link and this is my review of My Friend Pedro. But before we really dive into this game, I do want to talk about something about the game. It's not really technically something I would judge the game on, but I know how the game looks, I know how it was advertised. I actually was interested in this game quite a bit at one point, still am, and My Friend Pedro is an interesting game, but there's a heavy comparison that's trying to be drawn between My Friend Pedro and Deadpool. There's a couple of big reasons that this isn't Deadpool. The writing isn't the same. There's not really a lot of story. The style is really cool, but it's not similar, and the humor is quite different, coming from a different source. So, no, this is not Deadpool, and don't think of it as Deadpool, and you should be fine. This is something different, much more, I would say, Devolver digital than anything else. And with that said, I also want to say, hit 400 subscribers, so thank you to all the subscribers out there. If you aren't, you can always subscribe down below, but let's just get on with it. So, graphically, My Friend Pedro looks pretty good. I'm going to do my best to play this. Admittedly, this game's all about the style of the gameplay. Not only will you be running through a level, but you'll wall jump, flip, shoot in 2 different directions, and more. And I'll try to do as many wild things as I can. Personally, I love the duck and roll, almost like a Samus morph ball, but not exactly. The fact is, My Friend Pedro looks amazing in motion. I actually have a bunch of GIFs from this game that I'm going to try to put in my written review because the motion is what really sells it. And overall, I think My Friend Pedro looks fine. Admittedly, I think the levels here aren't as amazing as everything else. I didn't really mind much as I played, but on second playthrough when I was recording footage for this, they stand out as a little bit drab. I will be only showing off the first 2 levels for the most part, but here's one that's a little bit outlandish. I'm not going to go into why you're here, spoilers and all, but this one is a little zany. I wish they went more with this design than the drab butcher shop or the abandoned buildings, but honestly, the game does switch it up once in a while, and it does keep it a little bit fresh. There's a trick to that I'll talk about in the gameplay section. It's just a bit short, but we'll get there. I'm going to let the video talk for itself for graphics though. Like I said, I will try to make it interesting. I think it looks pretty good. On the other hand, the story though, well, we've already shown quite a bit of it at the beginning of the video, and that's the problem. I'll be honest, that is almost as good as it gets. The story mostly starts with you waking up in the butcher shop and running around killing as many people, giving a small reason to kill each. Why? Well, there is a reason. There's definitely a reason, but it's only brought up at the last minute. So, yeah, who you are is actually not mentioned ever in this game, and that's kind of a problem. The characters in the game that you're going to be fighting get a little bit more development, and that works, like this butcher, but ultimately, the game doesn't attempt to have a real story until the last moments, when I think it's a little bit too late. Honestly, this is somewhat like how Ruiner also throws in this big twist at the last minute that isn't necessary. It's a great game up to that point. Throwing in a story to throw in a story never works in my opinion. It's a little bit worse here, like the name, My Friend Pedro. Who is Pedro? Well, it's the banana, that's the name that's given for him. But who is that? There's no real reason given. There's clearly a reason that you're killing people, but not really. I mean, the game tosses out a reason because it feels like at the end of the game you're just a mass murderer and they have to quantify it, but they've also quantified that all the people you're killing are bad in some way, so what's the purpose? And for such a surreal game with, great trailers and all, clearly they understood some humor. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't go harder into like the outlandish premise. That amazing level I showed you before only appears 4 times in the entire game, 4 levels of them. And that's just not enough. That was what was needed more here to make this even better. Overall though, the story just lacks something, and it really needed, I think, more humor to it. Following that up though, the gameplay is as you've seen. I'm flying through this review because really there's not much to talk about with My Friend Pedro. My Friend Pedro is really a score attack or leaderboard game where you'll chase the leaderboard or your score trying to perfect levels. At least that's what the intended purpose is. Now, as you have seen, you're actually going to be running through levels, shooting enemies, and if you've noticed that green targeting reticule that appears sometimes on the screen, that's where I'm deciding to split my attacks. That means I can shoot at 2 enemies at once, you lock on one and aim at the other. Overall, it's rather intuitive and well done. I'll also be trying to dodge by spinning through enemy bullets when I get the chance and stuff like that. But the fact is, really, that is the whole game. You just try to get stylishly through levels, rolling around, spinning, shooting, and hopefully you reach the end of the level, or you don't and you restart. Now, there is some really cool stuff, such as this frying pan on the screen. If you kick it up in the air, you shoot it, it kind of ricochets and auto-aims at enemies. It's a sweet technique, and I kind of wish the game used more stuff like this. There's actually some really cool items in the game, such as the frying pan, the barrels you'll see me use, there's a skateboard, there's actually some ropes you swing from. All of this is really nice, but I don't think the game combines enough of them. You don't really use a lot of them at once. Pretty much something will appear a few times, then disappear, maybe returning. They don't wear out their welcome, but there's only a few interesting things done with most of these features, and I feel like they could have done quite a bit more in my opinion. Still, there are some excellent scenes in My Friend Pedro, such as this one. This is one of the 3 boss encounters in My Friend Pedro, and here we're riding the bike through the city streets. You know, I really love this scene, and the boss encounters are when My Friend Pedro is at its strongest. The controls are great, and honestly, the controls in the entire game are really tight, but these just change the pace, and honestly, it's a great moment, really interesting, and definitely unique. Like I said, very strong. And overall, this has been a fast review, but let's talk a little bit about why. Like I said, this is a leaderboard or score attack game, which is absolutely fine, I get it. You know, Geometry Wars was a great game, and so on. But adding a score to the game allows the players to replay it, but if you're not into that, well, personally, I beat this game in 5 hours. Just 5 hours. And that's right, I spent probably more time on this review than the game. Maybe I take a long time on my reviews, but honestly, I think 5 hours for a $20 game is iffy. Now, if you like the game and you really want to hit that score attack, you're probably going to be talking about more like 10 hours, maybe 20 from replaying and mastering levels, because you pretty much have to be perfect, hit every guy in one combo to get to the end, to get any score worth it. But the 3 difficulties as well in this game should lengthen the game. I'm actually playing on the medium difficulty here, hard, and personally, after I beat the game on the easiest difficulty, I was kind of done and I was shocked at how short it was. At the same time, the difficulties, if you're not playing on the hardest level, you basically have checkpoints every 5 seconds. So if you die, you pretty much get brought back to right before you open that door. It's not a very punishing game in that aspect. In addition, there's like 40 levels. Like I said, 5 hours, 40 levels. If you do the math, it's about 10 minutes or less per level. While replaying it, I found it to be more like 3 minutes level, which is frightening short for it, but it also means you can replay them multiple times. And finally, small little issues I've noticed. I got some stuttering when I was playing the game. I do have this installed on my solid state drive. When I was doing footage for this game, I actually found a hard freeze. That was the only one I've ever seen, but there's a little bit of a performance issue. My machine is way more powerful than it should be for this, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but just be aware. Now, I know I've been kind of going up and down on this game. It's not that I hate My Friend Pedro. I actually like it a lot, and that's one of my problems. I want more of it. I would have just loved more story, a more outlandish story even, more gameplay, more levels, but as it is, there's not much here for me to play, and at 20 bucks, it's a lot. Still, it gave me a fast review. I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to give My Friend Pedro a 3.5 out of 5. You know, it's a short game, but it's still fun, and I really don't think it deserves less than that score. But unless you're a heavy fan of chasing elusive leaderboards or trying to S-rank a game, you're going to be limited on what you're going to spend your time on here. Still, I have to be honest, I liked playing it more than I didn't like it. In fact, I like the whole game overall. Like I said, I just want more of it. And that's really my thoughts on My Friend Pedro. You know, I don't know. Let me know if you think a 5-hour-long playthrough on a game is worthy down below, or if you have a problem with it. Personally, I think I'm in the second camp. However, this was a Devolver digital game, so let's give them a little shout out here and these other reviews popping up about now. On the left, we're going to have Ruiner, a great game from them, and on the right, Messenger, another great game from them. So yeah, there's going to be something to check out after you finish playing My Friend Pedro. If you like this review though, consider subscribing, and I'm going to be back soon. Like or dislike this video as you feel like, and I have another interesting game coming up next. Until then, I'm King Link, and thank you for watching.